Okay, so somehow we're going to try and basically advocate that building models are a great way for us to work together, because as we have big teams and we all need to coordinate our work, we could use a single model to actually coordinate all our thinking, all our current understanding of what the design is, and kind of work on it together in a way that we can go through and all understand what it is we're trying to build. As we just get going, to reinforce what we talked about last time, the idea is that we're doing something a little bit different than CAD. As we're doing our building modeling, the focus really changed from drafting to really creating objects of different elements that are in the model. And that is by doing that, as opposed to thinking about everything as being drawing and creating abstract representations of things, what we're going to do is actually put objects into the model, and they're going to interact with each other, hopefully in smart ways, so that the drafting is taken care of. Now, we do some annotating. We add fills and dimensions in both cases. We do a little bit of that BIM light, where occasionally we draw things because it's a lot of work to model the thing. So, you know, I'm not 100% pure about this, but I'll try to be 85% pure most of the time in terms of what we're up to. Now, the reason we love so much working with objects is that objects tend to be pretty smart. You know, we can create them by just sketching some things, and pretty intelligent objects get created. You'll see when we actually create a stair, we pretty much just put 1 or 2 lines down, and the whole stairway, complete with railings, pops out of that. Yeah, they interact very nicely with things. So for example, when we put walls together at corners, they'll join nicely. When we put doors or windows into walls, it'll kind of cut things out and take care of all the drafting. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And these objects not only sort of represent themselves nicely in the model, they also give you the ability to stash information in there. So we can put any sorts of fields in there that then link them to other parts of what we'll need. Parts of the construction ordering system, parts of the construction scheduling system, parts of just whatever we need. But the idea is really for every piece of every piece of architecture or element that's in the building, we'd like to store information about it. So for example, for this computer here, this computer came from someplace. It has sort of a history of when it came from. It has a warranty associated with it. It has a model number associated with it. It has an IP address associated with it. There's all sorts of stuff that we'd like to associate with this computer. And the reason we'd like to associate it with this, as opposed to putting it in a spreadsheet somewhere, is if I move the computer over there later today, I'd like that information to follow around with it. So the idea that really ultimately for our building managers, we have complete models that really store all the information there, so you can really say, where did this come from? Really, what was the source? How do I get it repaired? What's the repair history of it? Is a very useful thing. So information modeling or building modeling is all about ultimately storing that information. The I is the important variable. Okay. Next up, how smart are these things? You're going to find out that they're actually pretty smart. They sort of function like real-world things. They try to relate very nicely to each other. You're going to find out that as we put things in there, they respond pretty well to editing. So for example, if I put a door in and it's flipped in the wrong direction, or I need to resize it, it's very easy to do. I kind of move it around or click some arrows and flip things around. They're pretty smart about doing that. They're not 100% smart though. Because, for example, if I put a bunch of beams in and columns, they won't check automatically to make sure that what you're doing will stand up. Okay, we can tell it to check that, okay, but it won't do it automatically for you. Okay, so the reason for that is that a lot of times as we're designing things, we don't yet have a complete whole vision of how it's going to work. So we have some loose ends. So rather than bugging you at every step of the way, it kind of waits till you say, I'm ready now. Now let's check it. Okay, so watch out for that. Although we can model it, we try to model it accurately. It doesn't guarantee that it'll stand. Okay, but we should always try to model things like we build it. Okay, so the more accurately we can model, actually the better it works throughout the entire process, because as we create accurate models, it makes it very easy to draw on that information for all the different views and ways we need it later. You're going to find out that we try to model our objects carefully, and we'll even create some new objects if we don't really have ones that represent exactly what we want. And that's going to be okay. But to get started, it'll really help you to either start with the right template or the starting point file, Okay, because then you'll have a bunch of preloaded objects that are all set up and ready to go. All your ingredients are on the counter, so it's ready for you to do what you need.